What I've seen from companies who have been successful, the attitude to fail fast. So does my company allow me to experiment?
I'm here with Satyaki Mookerjee, Chief Digital Officer from CEAT. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Leandro, for having me here.
Pleasure. Well, look, for the folks that don't know, we have a global audience. Can you tell us a little bit about CEAT?
Sure. So CEAT is one of the leading tire manufacturers in India, and we have been expanding our presence globally.
You've had such a storied experience across sectors. I think I've seen you've been in automotive, like now manufacturing, utilities, consulting. What have you seen and what have you learned, the differences across all of these industries?
The companies that have done it well, the digital transformation, they have worked towards a set of North Star KPIs. Even across cross-functional teams, they have agreed to a set of KPIs that they will work towards no matter from what department they come from. These companies who have done it well have been crystal clear about the critical business problems they would solve so as to provide competitive differentiation. So not technology for the sake of technology,
Right.
but because they give you competitive differentiation and edge. And they have a long-term roadmap. It's not an ad hoc overnight thing. The companies who have derived benefits, they have piloted it and scaled it across the organization, and that's where the entire value comes. What makes a lot of difference is the culture in the organization, because there are a lot of unknowns in an emerging technology. So are we as an organization ready to fail fast, learn? Are we rewarding smart failures rather than punishing them? Are we building digital champions within the business? Because all of this that you do, is it only a chief digital officer's agenda?
Right.
Or is it actually seeded within the business, and even business heads also carry and share those common objectives on which they are assessed at the end of the day? And that, in fact, brings out the best as a whole team.
Who is leading this? Is it the CEO? Is it the C-suite?
It's a CEO agenda. It's no longer an agenda in isolation. It's a business mandate. You have to do this. And therefore, the CDO should be driving this together with the business and should be a number one business priority.
So obviously, digital transformation has been now a term for some time. The new hot sort of term is AI, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about, are these used interchangeably, the organization and the industries you've talked to, or is it just another tech sort of revolution?
It is clearly linked to data and intelligence on top of data. So you have a whole breadth and depth of AI. But then the question is, what do I do about it? What kind of business problems can it solve? So for example, if my supply chain goes for a toss because there is war somewhere, which is a very practical situation today, would I be able to do a simulation? Would I be able to predict, for example, for CEAT, can I understand that if there is a supply chain disruption in the Middle East, and if I have to take my ship round the South Africa, what would happen to my overall delivery timelines? What would happen to my commitment to the customers? So then comes the whole concept of digital twins. You have AI and a lot of complementary technologies. They do not work in isolation. The best way to run them is together. But the best way is to also understand how do they work together as one unit to deliver your solution to the problem.
Right. And obviously you're talking a little bit there about sort of predictive AI.
Yeah.
What about sort of the new world of generative AI and its impact on being able to assist customer service or internal productivity, collaboration? How do you think about that?
So it's a great disruptor, I would say. Generative AI is anything which is mimicking human action. But if you really look at it, the potential where it is going to, it is phenomenal. So one set of adoption is purely productivity enhancers. You can take minutes of meeting, you can write the actions that are coming out of it. So a whole lot. Now, can you put a number and say, I have reduced 25%? It's probably difficult.
It is hard.
But intuitively and anecdotally, you know that there is a lot of
you're
productivity.
more efficient, right?
You're more efficient.
Yes.
Now, today, if you want to take a report, you would have to ask somebody to create a report. Tomorrow, You can actually talk to the data
Yes.
and you can actually get a response without having to code. Or if you're calling a call center, the call center need not be a human agent. It could be a perfectly virtual agent who's intelligent, who understands your context, who understands the intent. Because you could say the same thing, three people could say the same sentence with the intent in three different ways. So it understands context, intent. It is able to converse naturally.
No, I love these use cases because I think you can see the ones that are immediately applicable to the individual, like the productivity gains, and then there's ones that apply to the whole company, right? Reducing a supply chain or an ideation chain. So you talked about importance of culture before, and now in this space of AI, I think it's also important to have the right culture. How do you think about the introduction of AI and the mindset you might need to bring that to an organization?
What I've seen from companies who have been successful, the attitude to fail fast. So does my company allow me to experiment? A lot of transformation we made, for example, was cultural. We were allowed, or we are allowed to, with some budget, to do proof of concepts for technologies which are not proven. Now, for technologies which are proven, you would then go on to pilot and scale them. But where you are not sure of the technology, whether you will really get an ROI, you still need to take a leap of faith and try it out.
Yes.
You could fail. Some may be successful, some could fail. Does the culture allow you to do that? Because ultimately what you reward people with drives a bit of culture on ground as well. And do you reward innovation? Do you recognize people for hackathons, for new ideas? And not for solutions, but for giving the best problem. So it's very important to choose strategic long-term partners, and you need that strategic ecosystem along with your talent ecosystem, because it's a question of what talent would you insource, what would you outsource, and what would you co-source? And what is that talent ecosystem of your external partners who will help you to get there?
I think there's an element of the organization giving permission to the individual,
Yeah.
and then also the individual itself needing to have that permission
Absolutely.
to, and be innovative as well.
Yeah.
So I know you've been a big advocate of diversity
Yeah.
and inclusion.
Yeah.
How does that impact, the teams that you have within organization? Is that part of being able to bring some of this innovation to a company? How do you think about the importance of this?
Research shows that the more diverse the team is, the more innovative they tend to be, because you tend to look at a problem from various angles. You tend to look with different viewpoints. So one part is, if you bring diversity, that helps you. But the question is, it's also reverse. If you bring technology and innovation, it also helps equality at workplace. The inclusion of people with disabilities, for example, was a big challenge. Now, with multimodal UI coming in, with speech to text, we are overcoming space barriers, language barriers, sometimes physical limitations, whether I can be at a workplace. But if I have technology to assist me, a lot of those barriers can be overcome, and you can have a lot more inclusive workplace for working mothers. Can I use a lot of generative AI technologies to speed up things, make them more efficient, so when they multitask, they are more at ease than what they're today?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I don't think most people have realized, especially your element of multimodal, how there'll be new frontiers, right?
Yeah.
It's in particular conversation where you don't need a keyboard, you don't need a mouse. So
Correct.
all those limitations might go away. It's fascinating. If we look ahead 5 years,
Yeah.
where do you think it's going?
Where we are going, if you look at even the industry, data, and how do you connect to data, getting insights from the data is essential. So this world is going to be an interconnected world. It is already an interconnected world,
Yes.
right? It is going to be all the more going forward. And I see with generative AI coming in, and with a whole lot of technologies like spatial technology, this is going to only just accelerate the pace of the digital transformation.
So mentioning digital transformation, there's obviously folks tuning in who are maybe not yet on the journey. And you had some sage advice on needing the KPIs and understanding the business problems and having the right culture. How can they get going, right? Like, what's a very simple step so that they can at least start crawling?
Start with your most critical business problems. Look at what are the emerging technologies that can solve the problem. Now, invest in strategy of technology invest in architecture capability. To some businesses, they say, let's have a quick win. That is okay. But let's not forget that in the quest for a quick win, we are only engaging in ad hoc work.
Right.
There has to be a roadmap. So I would say invest a certain part of time building that roadmap, building that place, hiring the right people in the organization. Who are the partners that we will partner with? And look at the culture.
I love that. And thank you for spending the time and sharing your advice. It's a critical time, and I think some of the tips you shared are going to let people get going immediately.
Thank you so much.